Please be advised, we are not mental health professionals. Any information shared in this podcast is from our own personal experiences and should not be seen or taken as any form of medical or professional advice.
Hey guys, welcome to the very first episode of the Victimless podcast.
Hey, hi.
Woo! If you're coming from a future episode, this is the very first one and we are so excited to get started. It is March 2024 and I am your co-host Kat, and joining me is your co-host Jen.
Hey guys.
Jen, I heard you went axe throwing recently. How was that?
I loved it. I've never done it before. My very, very first throw was a bullseye, like straight on bullseye. Yeah. We didn't get that recorded, but there were 9 other witnesses. So we did take a picture
receipts.
Of aftermath. Yeah. I took receipts, but yeah, it was amazing. I think I might have found my new, just another hobby to add on to my therapy.
We need I've heard of those things called rage rooms where you can go and just destroy things. I feel like that is that would be super therapeutic.
Oh, that's a genius idea. I did see recently, I think it's called bog jumping or something. Have you heard of this?
No.
Okay, so I didn't know what it was named, but it's like this it's like this inflated tube, right? And it's like a slide. So someone down at the bottom pushes you down and you're like this. 2 people jump from the top and you fly in the air into this huge pit of foam. And I want to do it with every fiber of my being, but they don't have any here.
What's at the bottom of the foam? Like it's foam, and is it like water or is it like ground?
No, it's just like a foam pit.
Okay.
Like a ginormous foam pit. Yeah.
That sounds like so much fun.
100% would trust strangers to just jump and launch me. 100% would do it.
And what about it?
What
of it?
Yeah. I might have, knowing my luck, I'd probably just make sure I have a helmet on, but I mean, gotta protect the goods.
Yeah. I always talk like I'm a thrill seeker, but then I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I can do this.
Yes.
I have to watch 12 people get hurt first, and then I'm like, okay, it won't be that bad when I get hurt.
Right. Well, it's like Fear Factor. That Fear Factor when it came out, the old show.
Oh, with
it was so scary to me.
Joe Rogan.
Was he the host of that?
I think so.
All I know is there were a lot of bugs.
The bugs didn't bother me too much.
It's not that bugs bother me. It's the amount and it's the sound.
Oh,
it's the audible. Like
I'm pretty sure they added stuff on top in post, just like
yeah,
like all the nasty sounds.
Like had a Foley person make it. Oh. But other than that,
all right. Our goal here is to share what we've learned through our healing journeys, to talk about trauma and abuse, and to explore the concept that yes, we have been victimized in the past, but we are not victims, in the sense that we are rejecting that mentality in order to move forward with our healing. So, Jen, what do you think of when you hear the title of this episode, Nothing Changes If Nothing Changes?
Okay, so the basis of this episode was a statement that was said to me by a very dear friend / mentor as I was just starting my journey of the toxic environment that I was raised in, and she started using that, and it's so true. Kind of like what you said, our goal is we're so stuck right now. There's so many of us that are stuck in this cycle of, they just want to feel validated. Like there are experiences. We just want to feel that our experiences happened. Right. I feel like we just want to feel heard. We want to feel validated. And what keeps us stuck in the victimhood mentality is those cycles of not being validated instead of being dumped on. So it's just we're trying to obtain like a victory through validation. We're here for you to share your stories, so we can share our experiences, maybe share some tools. But the only thing that can change is you wanting to make that change. So nothing changes if nothing changes. The toxic environments that we've been, that we've experienced throughout life, they're both different. And I feel like it's very different facets of life. And we chose together, like in our own separate journeys, that we were going to do the work, and it was going to be hard, but our lives and our mindset and our health and wellness was not going to change if nothing changed, which
Right.
means doing the hard work, doing the stuff that we're terrified to do, and feeling that freedom, from that cycle of feeling, stuck, and that negative cycle of self-talk, that negative, just the thought process. So that's what it means to me, nothing changes if nothing changes. And that toxic person in your life, they have to also make the choice to hold themselves accountable, hold themselves responsible for their actions, so they can see the change in their life. And that's what brings changes within our relationships. However, we can't force someone to do the work. So we have just decided individually in our own different journeys, it's been several years that we've each been going through our own separate little journeys. And
Right.
I think we're just at a point now with our discussions and how much we have talked, that we've just seen in the discussions that we have had. And since we've talked, we've seen just the growth and the healing with each other.
Well, it's wild because we've known each other for, hold on, let me think,
Yeah, let's tell them who we are.
15 years?
Oh, ooh la lolly.
14?
Has it been that long?
I met you when I was 14, about to turn 15, and we were working together.
Volunteering, yes.
Volunteering together on weekends.
Yes.
And
Saturdays.
then you moved away.
Yeah.
And then
you kind of moved where I was for a minute.
Huh?
And then you kind of moved where
I
I was.
and then I moved down there, and we lost contact. I was in college. My family moved to the same state as you, and then I followed after college, and then I moved back. And so the really wild thing is, we knew each other back then. We were completely different people. At least I was.
100%.
Then we were separated for a while, especially while I was in college and you were out of state. Like, we were worlds apart.
Right.
We grew separately. And then we found each other again, sort of knew each other, but reconnected. Mm-hmm. And we had gone through similar parts of our healing journey, mm-hmm. and found each other again. And we're closer than ever now.
Yeah.
But it's just wild that I was a completely different person. And now, finding you again, we just healed in a very similar way and are on a similar journey.
Right.
And I love that.
I think what's really important for folks to know is we've discussed how our negative self-talk program, like our negative programming, kept us from even connecting. Because I know that I've owned, I've mentioned to you, I was afraid to say anything to you because, just because I'm like, well, she's really close and they're really connected, and then she's going to say something. Like, I already create that scenario. That's what we do. We create that worst case scenario. So we just guard ourselves and don't say anything. And we try, and I just think our story is so important in that aspect, in the sense of we decided that's part of that nothing changes if nothing changes. It's being honest and it's being vulnerable. And we do, I think, as victims, as people in toxic environments or relationships, I feel like we need to have a platform where people can hear, like, I was terrified. I was terrified to say something to you because I loved you as a friend. I thought you were super cool. You know, your family was, you know, really sweet. You are super cool.
Super cool.
But I was also scared because I didn't want to upset the dynamic of your friendship. And we just discussed, you know, how that came to be. And it all just started with a conversation with someone being afraid to, you know, it's just speaking up afraid. But just trusting yourself that one person and having that one person, you know, say something can change the whole trajectory. And we want to be that for others.
For each other and for you guys, especially.
Absolutely.
Because the tricky thing is like, it's all interpersonal relationships. And like, that's going to be different for every single person. And we're saying we're not victims. That's just like a personal thing. We don't want to have that label. That's why we're victimless. But the other thing too is we're going to be talking about toxic people in our lives. We're going to be talking about narcissism, PTSD. And the thing is, we're not here to put people on blast. We're not here to dox or out or, you know, call anybody out, but we are going to talk about our personal experiences because we can, and it's time.
Yeah. I think it's very important to talk and to mention, I mean, we are not licensed professionals.
No.
You know, we're not here to diagnose anything. But I think it's important for us to share our experiences, because it helps to bring validation to other people. And for me, just to have a group of people, just to even have a moment where I'm like, where I can tell myself, I'm not crazy. I'm not crazy. And the amount of life that I have now and the way that I experience life now is so different. Still struggle like with, because it is still a journey. But it does get easier and easier, but I'm not as, just where I was, like you said, where I was and where I am now.
Night and day different.
Totally different. Different. And yeah, we're not here to blast people. We're not here. That's the whole point of Victimless. Like, everyone wants to say, you know, oh, and I did this and I know this. Like, there's a lot of good, solid professionals out there that can drill down and give you the keys and give you the exact words to use. We might use some sort of therapeutic verbiage. You know, you might hear gaslighting or projection or something like that. Those are also things we've heard in our own experience, but we're not licensed professionals. We're not trying to be victims. And when we share our stories, it's not our goal to have you say, oh, pity me. That's where we were stuck. And that's where that is just so unhealthy. And it's so toxic for ourselves. And it's like a slow, you know, the frog in water, it's a slow boil for ourselves.
Oh,
and we just slowly, you know, so we're just trying to turn that stove off. So that's what we're here for. We want to hear from other people too. Like, share your stories. If you have something that you have a question, like, hey, I'm experiencing this. Is this something you experienced? How did you go through it? Again, we're not offering professional advice, but we will offer our personal experience. And we do understand that, you know, and if you have come across this and some of the stories sound familiar to you, or you're trying to put a face to a name, just know, nothing changes if nothing changes. This was not started out to blast people, like, you know, Kat mentioned, like we've mentioned. This was not started to attack. This was after many attempts to, as well. We've had conversations. I've had conversations trying to just be heard, I guess, and be seen. And I just realized nothing changes on both sides. So with that being said, if you find yourself finding this story sounding familiar, or run into this channel and recognize us, your assumptions, you know, we ask that you please don't make assumptions. But nothing changes if nothing changes. It has to change on both sides. And there have been attempts made for healing. And we are open and we are here. That's all we want. That's all we have strived for our whole life, is for a deeper connection. We've strived to be heard. I personally have been told, things like, you're too sensitive. She's just too sensitive. She just takes things too personally. Oh, that's just who she is. All of those are extremely invalidating statements. And until there is accountability and responsibility on both sides, the healing is going to be stifled, I feel like.
Right.
It's not that I'm not still pursuing it. I'm doing the work on my end, but the other party has to do the work on their end as well. And it truly can't happen until you're ready and willing to accept the responsibility for your actions as well.
Right. And the thing is too, we're only responsible for ourselves. Like, I can't, like you said, we can't make other people realize the hurt that they've caused or even, try to correct it. And I'll give you props to this. This was your idea to start a podcast, because literally we, almost every single day, we talk and talk and talk, and we are helping each other heal from those relationships or heal from those situations. And we'll talk for hours about some of those things. And I think too that it would just be really helpful. And thank you for the idea, because I really think this is going to be good and healing and helpful for other people, but also for us to just sort of get this stuff out onto God's internet. But just, to be able to communicate with others and foster a community and be able to, really just connect with other people with similar situations, or even just, be able to be that support for each other.
Just trying to cultivate like a safe community for people to hear, like, oh my gosh, they've done it. We want to be an encouragement. We are here to bring encouragement and unity back. No one wants to talk about anything anymore. I just feel like we don't talk to each other anymore. That critical thinking and just that even like conflict resolution, it's so non-existent. We talk about each other, not to each other. And I just feel like we need to bring back, like, let's just resolve it, and thanks for the props, but you also jumped right on board. So you've dealt with my crazy little schedule, because our lives are a little bit different in how they're structured. So you've been very, very, so thank you, but you've also been pretty fantastic yourself.
I'm just really, really excited, because I feel like this is going to be super helpful for us and for others.
That's that's our goal. That's our only goal.
We just want to have that level of privacy, but to also be able to create that safe space for you guys and for us, because community is important. We definitely revolve around different communities, Jen and I. But we really do think that community is like such a human, visceral, like important part of our lives. Yeah. And it's good for our healing too, to be able to talk about these things and not breathe life into old wounds, but to be able to sew them up a little better.
Yes. And just to clarify the word community, because that used to be a really hot button word for me, honestly. Because you think community is like this huge. One of the first things I did was just like make my circle a little smaller. Community doesn't have to be 100 people. And through the course of healing, it got smaller and smaller. But the number of people that I know that I can call on may only be one or two, but that's so important to me. Like those relationships are so, like, cultivating those true relationships and having those different little communities. And I just feel like that's important, because those of us who have not had that unit or unified unit growing up, that's what we look for, some sort of unit. And for me, I was looking for a big group. So now community to me is wherever my connection leads, where I can feed into that relationship and, you know, and have a loving, open, honest relationship with that other person where we can be our authentic selves, but also challenge each other and just, you know, challenge and encourage and be real and not have to put on a happy face 24/7 or be a people pleaser or feel like I'm going to say or do the wrong thing and they're not going to like me anymore. So I have to perform correctly. So I just wanted to share that. That to me was, community can be one or two people. And that's why we want to be here for you. We would love to see it grow. We would love to see the community grow. We don't know where it's going to go, but, you know, we want to hear from you about your healing journey, things that have helped you, or maybe are you an only child? Are you the oldest child? Are you the middle child? Like, tell us, you know, what you want to tell us. And like Kat said, privacy is very important to us. If you want to remain anonymous, feel free. However, you know, we will be vetting to make sure. I think it's really important that we're here for honesty. We're not here to sensationalize. We're here for healing and growth. We want to be victimless. We want to play the victim a little less and not sensationalize our stories to be center of attention.
Right. And if we help just one person, like
we've done it.
I've done it. Yeah, we've done it. And it's like, yeah, I put on makeup this morning, I got out of bed, I brushed my hair, but this is going to be really ugly too. I full on expect to ugly cry at some point during this pod.
I'm down for it.
And like any one topic could be a whole episode. We talk ad nauseum, but not to me, at length about some of these topics. So I'm just really stoked about, you know, getting to the ugly, gritty, nasty realness about healing and recovery.
Yeah. The importance of, you know, why it's important to talk to someone who is licensed and versed in that, you know, and why it's important to do the work and how to overcome the obstacles when it gets hard, and understanding that chest tightness and that fear is natural, and you're not the only one experiencing it, and that shame and that guilt does lessen, and that feeling of inadequacy and that feel like it does get smaller. But I just want to encourage whoever's listening, this didn't happen to you overnight. You know, this wasn't something that you just woke up and you were this person based off of treatment or environmental changes. It's not going to change overnight, but we are here, and you're not alone. You're not.
Right. I am chronically online, you know, doom scrolling. That is like my thing. And I realized too, at the same time, I've never had an original experience in my life. Like so many people have gone through similar things that I have. And I'm like, okay, so I've not had an original thought. First of all, somebody's already said it or done it or thought about it. And also some of that trauma, like people have gone through similar things. And I just think it's wild because I've connected privately with some people online about healing and about especially PTSD, because I've been diagnosed with PTSD, which is post-traumatic stress disorder.
Yes. And I've been diagnosed with CPTSD,
which is
complex.
Yeah. And so you've been diagnosed with complex post-traumatic stress disorder. And the thing about post-traumatic, so it happened before, stress disorder, it is happening now. Like within my body. I used to suffer from extreme, multiple times a week panic attacks that would just come out of nowhere. I would be at the grocery store and I'd be like, okay, and I didn't know what they were. Especially in college, I would say, okay, I'm dying actually. Actually, hospital, please. Okay, I'm dying.
Right.
But something would set me off. Something that I remembered or would come up, or a certain smell even. I think smell is very closely tied to memory. And we've said it before, we'll say it again. We are not medical professionals. This is my personal experience. I thought I was dying. I was stuck. And then I went to therapy, and she, my therapist was like, actually, it's pretty common. And I was like, no way. I mean, yeah, people die, but how about in a grocery store? Like, once a week?
Yeah. Today was almost that day.
I almost kicked it. And she was like, no.
Right.
No, honey. Sweetheart, bless your heart.
And
no, she was better than that.
Yeah. Bless your heart.
Bless your heart.
I think that's really, like, one of the things that was said to me, too, when I first was, like, at the very, very beginning of, like, my aha moment of my journey, was I was so self-sabotaging that I literally was sitting there for a couple days, and I'm like, am I a narcissist? But I do this. Like, I felt like the worst human. Like, I was asking my friend, I'm like, does that mean I'm a narcissist? Like, literally, like, that breath. And
actually, am I the worst person in the world?
Right. Like, if I am, I want to fix it. I don't, like, almost hyperventilating. And I had a lot of those too, just like very deep hyperventilate, like cries when I was little and growing up. And but I just remember, and I didn't actually realize it until I was older. When I was growing up, I'd be like, don't sigh, get in trouble, because your parents want you to be respectful. I understand that, but I would be so frozen that I would hold my breath because I was focusing, because I can't make a wrong move. And then I would, and it was, don't you say, and then, so I was constantly so tight in the chest,
Was it fight, flight, or fawn?
Freeze.
Or freeze, yeah.
Yeah, I was frozen a lot. But I can relate to that in the sense of even just as a grown adult bumping into someone at the grocery store, like, oh, I'm sorry. But the same emotional attachment was that reactive. We lived in such a reactive emotional state. I mean, I was diagnosed with costochondritis. I thought I was having a heart attack changing classes like senior year in high school.
Oh.
Not realizing it. Like, I literally can't explain the it was so painful. It would wake me up at night like I thought that I was going to kick it, like this is the moment, and
life's been good, but hey, here we are.
Right.
It's the end.
It's not the fear. The crazy thing is, it's not the fear of dying. It's it's more like, this is gonna how I go. Like, this is it. Like, it's hard because I think I will say it's pretty sad to think that in the moment where you feel like you're going to die and you're still worried about upsetting other people. Like, if I do this, they're going to be so mad because I left this and that's not done and this isn't done. Like, a lot of work has been done, and I just want to encourage other people to do the work. And like, we'll share books and tips that have helped us along the way.
Maybe even have guest speakers but we have resources, girl. We have receipts, we have resources, we have books, we have other podcasts that we listen to.
We have books that our dogs like to chew up because they hate them so much. They're so angry that we have
Oh my gosh. So yes, I definitely want to share this. What was the name of the book? I can't
Narcissistic Fathers.
Narcissistic Fathers. So I have a very loving, devoted German Shepherd. He is adorable. His name is Leo. He is beautiful. He's huge. I love him to death, but almost to the pound for this. Not actually.
No.
Almost to the pound. Get out of here. Jen let me borrow Narcissistic Fathers
by Carolyn Foster.
Yes. And she went back home because we live far apart. She went back home and I kept the book and I started reading some of it. And I guess Leo, the most devoted, adoring German Shepherd, said, Mom keeps looking at this book and crying and sobbing and snotting all over the place.
Right. And it smells like the human that just left with my favorite friend. Yes.
Right. The play date came up, Ziva. And, maybe I should get rid of this book entirely so she doesn't have to cry over this. And that's what he did. And it was gone, and I felt like a horrible person and obviously replaced it, but my heart sank when I realized you had written notes on the inside of it. And I was like, for the first couple minutes after getting home from work, I was just livid. I could not believe he did that. But then I realized why he probably did it. And it's hard to, slap the little doggy wrist.
He just, Leo middle name.
Leo.
Leo. But that's actually a good example because just to show how deep and how horrible trauma does, because when you called me, you were, I don't want to say,
I was close to tears. I know.
I almost wanted to say petrified, but that's over exaggerating for sure.
I don't feel like it is.
Well, I'm not going to speak to your emotion, but you definitely looked very, and of course I'm laughing.
Yeah, because, you took it very well. I was like, she's going to be so mad at me. She's not going to want to be my friend anymore. And that's like that reactive behavior.
People, that is the reality, because a simple mistake happened. And I have a dog. Like, my dog has made poor choices as well. My cat makes poor choices and then tries to get
on
the
the reg. Away. Yeah.
Always.
Every day.
All the time. And, so, I mean, mistakes happen. And I mean, growing up, it wasn't allowed, it's hard to say that your earliest memory, and let me clarify, I definitely have good memories. Like, I have good memories.
Yes.
But honestly, a lot of them weren't able to even be unlocked because it was so bad in my head.
Yes.
And, but like one of my earliest memories is not a good one. And I was maybe 5 years old. I mean, it was I accidentally spilled the milk in our little house before we moved to the house that I grew up in. And it just wasn't a good reaction. It was a reaction. It was an anger reaction. It was not, hey, this kid's like 4 or 5 years old and she spilt milk and I got it, she spilled it on my work shirt. But, that's how serious it is. You were so scared to tell me, and I'm sitting over here like, it's just a book. Chances are I'm gonna, have different comments to add to that. I'm still gonna write in my books. I'm still gonna take notes. I'm still gonna read it again. But what even was better was that you put it up on the shelf after he chewed it the first time.
Okay, so yes, he chewed the corner, and I was like, I gotta put this up. I told you about it, and it was not a big deal that time. I was like, he got the corner, I'm so sorry. And I put it up on the shelf where there's like glass. There's like stuff up there that he had to get up on his pawpaws and carefully pick out the book and then shred it up.
He's so smart. How
he
can
is.
you be mad at that?
He is.
How can you be mad at something that's easily replaceable? I mean, he's just a genius dog. He's so smart.
But like you said, like with, spilling the milk when you're not allowed to just, be a kid and make mistakes.
Yeah.
That literally rewires your brain to not be able to move forward with like even learning. Like I felt like I had a learning disability for a while, and if maybe I do, and that's not like a negative or anything, it's just it's just how it is. But I really thought I did, because if I made a mistake, it was like the end of the world, because that's how it was growing up.
Right.
And you mentioned narcissism, and I would like to talk about it briefly, because I have, I think, multiple undiagnosed narcissists in my life. And some people who are no longer in my life because they are narcissists. And so if you know somebody and you think they're a narcissist, just remember, you can't diagnose people, and narcissism is a spectrum. But I just feel like, because you mentioned too about gaslighting, like that could be a whole episode because I have so much to talk about.
Oh, there's going to be multiple. And that's the whole point, is like, we're just going to share experiences and how we got through it. And, but yeah, I feel like I love how you put, like, there is a spectrum. We cannot diagnose, but based on conversations with professionals and, you know, their best guesses, like, and their tools that they're recommending. Sorry, someone wants in, and it's not the big one. Okay, so let's just get this out of the way. I have a cat. I saved her from the streets when she was a kitten just to get her out of the cold.
Hard knocks.
Yes. And I took her to go get her shots for kitten, you know, had all the tests done. And I told him I wasn't keeping her, had to take her back for a couple weeks. And then she bonded with my dog, yada, yada. I had one of those cat DNA tests done. She's about every type of Siamese. She is a gorgeous cat, but she is a horse of a different color. She is her own little special blend of awesome. And you will probably see her, hear her. She
multiple times.
Yes, she loves to just tell you all about everything.
She's so vocal, and literally she came from the streets, and now she's like, actually, I'm a princess.
Yeah, she's more of a
I'm
guard
a baby.
dog. Yeah. She will sit and guard while I make the food and everything. It's hysterical.
Oh my gosh. I love her. I love her so much.
But anyway, back to our regularly scheduled program. But like you said, we're not medical professionals. Now, the reality is, too, that I realized that a lot of the relationships that I was in, whether friendships or whatnot, had very similar toxic traits. Not to say that the people I picked were narcissists. We're not here to say everyone is a narcissist.
No.
We don't know.
People do throw around that term a lot.
Yes. And we all have toxic traits. We all are selfish to our, you know, we want to be happy. We want to feel happy. We want to feel good. We are very selfish minded as, you know, I don't know if that's the best way to put it. Maybe don't say selfish.
Well, I agree with you though, because like a lot of what I do is narcissist adjacent, just because that's what I grew up with. And I think that I've those learned behaviors that I'm trying to unlearn.
Those patterns of behaviors, and and learning that the behaviors that we exhibited were products of the training environment that we were programmed in. And I think that it's really important, because I was saying this to myself before I even knew what narcissism was, before I even questioned, before I even started the journey of researching it and finding it there, you know, starting down that journey. But we were stuck too, because that's all we knew. That's what invalidation does. Invalidation has you constantly in this cycle in your mind of, how do I literally lived in a perpetual cycle of paranoid fear. Even to the simplest thing, like even while driving, like, oh, they're riding my bumper, I would get anxiety, like I'm upsetting them, I need to drive faster. It's a constant, it's almost more than eggshells.
Well, but because I felt like I was always in trouble.
Always. So
always
we
in
weren't
trouble.
able to, and I wasn't able to voice, like, if I was upset or I got, you know, but I noticed that a lot of those relationships that I was cultivating and whatnot had very similar toxic traits. Again, not saying they're narcissists, but they could have had one of these key toxic traits of just being really selfish, you know, or being really bossy, or just because someone's bossy doesn't make them this. Just because someone's this doesn't make them that. And that's part of the culture that we're trying to help change as well, of like, just because I see this, that labeling culture, just because, you know, we want to bring more of like that united front back.
Yeah, and the thing is too, like, Jen and I don't agree on everything. We have very different belief systems and structures, but the thing is, our values are basically overlapping. We care about other people. We care about being a better person. I just think it's so important that we are less divided, even though, like, you know, and we won't go into politics, but, you know, we might have different politics, and that's actually okay, in the sense that, you know, we need to be able to be there for each other, and the more divided we are, the less we're able to be there for each other. Obviously there's a balance, but, you know, all I'm saying is we need each other.
Yeah.
We need a community where we can talk to each other, we can ugly cry, we can say some, you know, things that's going on in our brains, that, you know, that self-deprecation that you were talking about, talking about those toxic relationships that, yeah, we're not doing the labels, but and talking to our therapist, we know that some of those relationships were toxic, for one reason or another, but a lot of them too are narcissistic in nature, or at least hit a lot of those bullet points.
Well, and the isolation comes from birth. You know, it's isolation within your family. Like, I still struggle with even reaching out to aunts. I have a large family. You have a large family. I've just now, in the past couple years, am trying to reach out to them to know what it's like, because it was always, you don't invite yourself, you don't do this, and don't say that. It was a lot of so many secrets that it's such a touchy, like, I don't even know what to say. It was still like a very anxious environment.
Yeah.
Even just having a conversation with another aunt or uncle, because I don't know what they've been told about me. I don't know how I'm supposed to, but they already have this preconceived notion, but yet we're still trying to operate in what we think, how we're supposed to. It's such a, I don't want to say schizophrenic, but it's, you know, that's the best word.
Paranoia. It is.
Yeah, it is. It's a paranoia. So when I say lived like a paranoid fear in every aspect, and it's not that I haven't had the conversations of, you know, I've flat out told one of the people in my life, like, when I said I had a situation where I was like, I'm kind of creeped out. And the response to me was, well, I wouldn't be creeped out. I'm glad you wouldn't be creeped out. But when I said this when I tried to mention to my mom, you know, and I said, you know, I was told, well, the first response was, well, I wouldn't be creeped out. And they gave an excuse for the action, invalidating my feelings, invalidating my experience, basically telling me to, well, suck it up and get over it. So I have to self-soothe, self-monitor, everything
without giving you the tools on how to do that,
to help balance, right? And when I mentioned it and said, you know, my feelings are valid, and I said, I'm tired of being invalidated. To this day, that toxic party, even though that situation was mentioned, you know, 3 times, I have a 3-time rule, which I'll gladly share in just a moment. I'll explain what that is, because you yourself have mentioned how much that's helped you. But I said it 3 times, and still to this day, that toxic person has not called me to have a conversation, has not called me to discuss it. They have discussed it with everybody else and acting like they are very upset that this situation happened. So that's what they do. They take your situation, create it as their experience, while you never even get to process that experience in a healthy way. And then you're stuck. Worse, like, well, now I can't say anything because it's going to be bad. So that's just kind of, without diving in, again, I feel like there's a lot of different, almost like little tributaries we can take on it. You know, that's why we wanted to do this too. And one thing too, just to talk about like the emotions and that fear, and that anxiety within us, can go to this podcast. Like, the anxiety and the conversations that we've had, because we love our families, we love our friends, we genuinely love other people. And I think this is a perfect example. Like, even starting this, we had our reservations, if you will. and concerned about. That's why we had that in depth about the privacy and things like that. This is Kaya.
Hi, Kai. There she is.
And so I just feel like that's, you know, that's really important too. Like doing things out of your comfort zone. We want to encourage you. It's not going to be comfortable, but the release and the healing is worth it. We are here to tell you it is worth it. It is worth it. Do it. It is hard work. There will be tears. There will be anger. There will be a lot of emotion. Sit in it, experience it, talk to us, talk, you know, with us. But even just something as starting a podcast, there were a lot of reservations, and there is some anxiety and fear with that because we don't, you know, we've done all this work to not be attacked and not be condemned and not be yelled at and not be told that we shouldn't be doing this and why we shouldn't be doing this, why we can't be who we want to be. So I think that's just really important for our listeners, viewers to know that even doing this, there is a little bit of anxiety, even just doing the podcast.
Yeah.
Because
I was not taught to speak up for myself. And I think the reason why it is so hard is because I still love and treasure a lot of the people that have hurt me very badly. And it's hard to talk about that.
Absolutely. It's extremely hard to talk about because we just want to be very careful, you know, that it's not attacking and it's not condemning. It's just us sharing our experiences as we experience them and the emotions that we went through and how that affected us and where we are today in that healing process. And healing's not just for some. You know, they say that hurt people. Well, healed people help people. That's what I believe. And we're here to help you as we continue on our healing journey. So, should I just like trademark that now? Like, let's just say that, like, cause I see that sometimes, you know, but it's true. It is true. I've been thinking, you know, because you hear all of those and we'll end up talking about how important it is to pay attention to the, you know, the common responses of, you know, get over it. And well, you know, hurt people. Well, that was used as a tool, as a weapon
to justify.
And how the little phrases are weaponized to justify behavior, to invalidate your experience and your feelings. But it is true, hurt people. But I believe that healed people help people. And we're here to help. And we're here to just be raw, real, who we are, and welcome you along. Because we want you to experience, we want others to experience the things that we have experienced, the good, the bad, the ugly, and the happy.
Especially the happy, because we'll get into that too. There are some things about growing up I will remember for the rest of my life.
Yes.
All the good things, but I think that a lot of it was drowned out by some of the negative stuff as my brain is like literally being developed.
I think we just talked about that the other day, right? Like, as it's being rewired, you know, I didn't realize how many good memories I had from childhood because of all of that unresolved, you know, chaos, like the clutter in my brain, you know, the chaotic clutter. And, so same. And I think we did just talk about this, like, oh my goodness, I'm allowed to make a choice. I feel like I'm moving out for the first time in my life. I haven't lived at home in I don't know how many years now. So, but yeah, no, you're spot on. I agree with that. I like how you said that. Why don't we can actually end with this if you want. We can wrap up because I think I'm getting a little. The 3 rule is it's something I started. I just decided because it was not healthy for me to try and verbalize it anymore in a different way. I had such a pattern. That's what we do, right? It's what we do when we're in traumatic situations. We're trying to heal that trauma from the moment that it happens for as long as it takes. But when more trauma is heaped on top of it, there's, it's like quicksand and you get just sucked in and you're stuck. So for my health and my, awareness, I started telling myself, okay, I've mentioned this in depth 3 times. I've now had this conversation 3 separate times. And when I say 3 separate times, I say with a good spatial amount in between. So a couple few months. This isn't, again, like, it's not about me. I need to be heard. I need to get my way. This is about trying to allow the other party space to learn and heal as well, should they choose to change and do the work as well.
Especially with a parent or somebody really close that's,
right,
hierarchically above you.
Yeah.
In
like
terms of just like relationships.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Right. And so I just recently had this experience now, and I did say the 3rd time that I talked to her, there's a situation, that I get the statement a lot of, you never tell us anything, and that's what they tell other people. Well, she doesn't talk to us. She doesn't tell us everything, kind of thing. So I was actually in an environment where I legit would share almost every detail of my life.
Overshare even.
Yeah, I would overshare, but not just with them, with everybody. Mm-hmm. Like, I have to let people know I'm sharing, right? So now, and, we'll dive into that journey more for sure. But for now, that 3-time rule is, the last time I mentioned it was, okay, so I just want to let you know that this is the last time that I'm gonna, I'm a very example creative visual person. For example, the conversation with the toxic, the people, a very surface level now, because I overshared. So now it is very surface level.
Yeah.
There have been conversations of, because that you don't tell us anything, and when we ask, you get mad. Now, a lot of those statements have been being said to me since before I hit puberty. And it's the same statements. And I've said, I've said my piece in those situations when it's tried to be used against me, at this point. But example, it's not just about work and you have anything going on. It's that engaging conversation. Are you going hiking? How are you, are you hanging out with your friends? Do you have anything planned with your friends coming up? Do you have any of this coming up? It's always, pretty much like housework. Okay. Anything else? That is it, pretty much. And I finally got to the point where I said, I'm not mad. I'm not upset. I just need to say this, because I do have to still preface, I'm not mad. I'm not upset, because that's what I was told I was. That's what they tell everyone else I am. That's not the person I am. And I said, I know I've mentioned it before, and I promise I'm not going to mention it again. But you still, it's been over a year, and you still to date have yet to ask me anything in regards to this aspect of my life or that aspect of my life, or just anything more in depth. And I said, again, I'm not mad. I'm not upset.
But that 3 times, like you say, yeah. I want to have a more meaningful conversation.
Yeah, I'm trying to deepen the relationship. I'm trying to deepen the connection. And then later, I bring it up again because it's still, time has gone by. And then I bring it up again, and that's and that's just me. I do not say, because it's my journey and it's my healing. And I can't expect, nor should we expect, someone to respond in the way that we want them to. There's a way that we would like them to respond, but understanding that it's our delivery and our heart in the situation on how it's going to go. So my goal is to have that conversation in love and in genuine love and genuine kindness, and say, listen, I love you. I truly am not upset. I'm not mad. Like, they don't know us as the core beings that we are. They know us based on their judgments and assumptions. And right. Not to say I'm not
Which
saying,
everyone does, but it's one of those things where you feel like it's been off way too many times.
Right. And, being told what I, think, feel, said the majority of my life is a very confusing world to live in. Yeah. We're just here to try and help other people.
I'm ready for it.
Have someone to talk to.
I'm ready.
We are planning on launching on a couple platforms, so we'll keep you posted on that. But if you have any comments or you would like us to share your story and talk about your story and our experience, we would love to have guests. We are brand new to this, so please be patient. We're learning as we go and loving the journey. But you can reach us at victimlesspodcast@gmail.com, all one word, and we'll link it. We'll put it in the description below. And tell your friends, It's so awkward. Be like, please
give us a little quickie.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us. We will see you on the next one. I'm so excited to get this started.
I'm so excited to. I can't wait to hear the stories of how this just helps people and on their journeys and just empower. We're here to empower other people, and there's no rhyme or reason. There's no specifications. If you're human, you're welcome. So I guess what we're trying to say is we're just here to live a little less victim-minded, a little more victimless-minded. And the only way that can happen is through change. So remember, nothing changes if nothing changes. And the change starts with you. Thanks for joining us.
Bye,
See you
guys.
next time. Bye, guys.